Bird, 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 bird. Get him. Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It is the 26th of November, the day after Thanksgiving for most of you, the day before Thanksgiving for me. We're not celebrating till Saturday just because of sharing families with grandkids now. You know, they got to go here and they got to go there. So, yeah, we alternate. So, anyway, Thanksgiving is Saturday for us. But I hope you had a good one. I hope you had a safe one. And I want to tell you before this, I want this out there in front of everything else. I know you're still, because you couldn't possibly have hung up on the intro yet, because I didn't start blathering on about all my sponsors. So this episode I did with Ben Jones. He's the CEO of Ruffed Grouse Society, American Woodcock Society. Ben left out one little detail that he wanted me to throw into the intro, and that is they're hiring. That's right. And you're going to find out why they're hiring when you listen to the episode, but they're hiring. So this could be a shot for one of you. This is not closed. You don't have to be a Hunting Dog Podcast listener, obviously, to do this. But if you're interested in a job with RGS and AWS, go to their employment postings page. They're looking for a grants and donor stewardship officer, and they're looking for event coordinator positions in the Eastern Great Lakes, Southern Appalachians, and the Western Great Lakes. Yeah, the heart of grouse. So I'm just letting you know they're hiring. And I think you got till December 20th, so don't dilly and don't dally. Anyway, my Patreon patrons, always my number one sponsor. If this thing is its own little, the podcast is its own little ship now, right? It's got a motor, and it's got traction, and it's got size, and got over 300 or 3 million downloads, and everything's just rolling along. Well, the Patreon patrons are the diesel engine of this ship. They are the motor. They are my main sponsor, and I cannot thank you enough, especially this time of year. Just got my first patron from England. Yeah, from the UK. Yeah, first time ever. It showed up in lira, or in pound. Lira. What am I, in Italy? Showed up in pounds, right? Did the donate button in pounds. That was kind of weird. I wonder if I have to go to a currency exchange. I don't know. I don't know how they'll figure it out. But anyway, people absolutely love coming to the Zoom rooms. You hear stories that you'll never hear on this podcast. You'll hear stuff that I probably couldn't say on the podcast. You'll hear stories from other people. We got an update. It's getting to be like the regular. I look forward to those 2 Thursdays a month as much as I look forward to anything else. And besides the fact that you can get discounts on some of our products. So I'm going to tell you, people always write me. Let's get this right off the bat, okay? Can I get a discount on Boss shot shells? No, not currently. I can't do a discount on CZ shotguns. You have to understand these products like Garmin, okay, they are 100% completely dictated by MSRP. They cannot do anything else. Now, Gunner Kennels is a different story. Pike Gear is a different story. I know the owners of these companies really good, and they're like, yeah, we'll give your patrons a little something else. Always give them a little taste, as they said in The Sopranos. But a lot of reasons to join Patreon. If you haven't done it, do it. Do it. Do it soon. Do it before the holidays. Do it as a Christmas gift to yourself. Think of it like that. You know what? Think about all this stuff. Pike Gear, my title sponsor, technical clothing for the upland hunter. They're going to be running a bunch of sales in December, a bunch of sales. And they're going to be up and they're going to be down. And the only way you're going to know about them is to give them your email address. Go online, look at their stuff, decide what you want for Christmas, and just watch. Because they're going to be running, you're going to be getting notifications every 2 days. I'm just making that up. When things go on sale. And it's a great time to put some Pike Gear in your stocking. Or if it's something really big like their vest, it won't fit in your stocking. You know, all these things should be on your Christmas list. Like, just say, like, oh, God, he's going to go through the whole list. But just think about it. Like, how many times Somebody asked you, your partner, whoever it is, she, he, she, him, they. I'm sorry, I can't. I was watching some YouTube videos about gender pronouns. It's driving me crazy. But anyway, why not ask for Onyx? Ask your partner for Onyx. Say, I want Onyx. That's a great Christmas present. And you can get, that fits in your phone. You don't even have to put it in a stocking. CZ, what a great Christmas present that would be. Good luck finding one. No, I shouldn't say that. But they are, in the words, I don't know where the phrase selling like hotcakes came from. I have no idea. But there are some things that just sell like hotcakes, and apparently CZ is one of them. They are hard to find, but worth finding. It's where price meets quality. Right there. It's right at the intersection of Price Street and Quality Avenue, which is a really good intersection to be at. Boss shotgun shells, same way. Boy, hard to find sometimes. They are getting sold literally faster than they can make them. But there's a reason why. I mean, because it's the best non-tox shell you can get out there. Copper-plated bismuth. Nobody, and I don't care how big the company is, nobody has the patent for copper-plated bismuth shells except Both. And that is how you show the birds who's boss. Man, that was pretty smooth. Waltons. I would love to see some Waltons under my tree. I need a whole bunch more spices. And there's just, I'm getting a kind of a kitchen. Well, it's our laundry room, but we made half of it into our meat processing room. And it's really starting to get to be fun, so I just need more gadgets. So, if you want to get me something for Christmas, go to Waltons, get their catalog, send me something. Nothing big. Just, that's a little something. Purina, Purina is like Christmas all year round. My dogs get Purina every day. I can't give them anything better, so why would I worry about it? On Christmas Day, I'm not going to give them their own bag of Purina. I can't do that. So that's probably not something that's the one thing you're probably not going to put under your tree this year. Gunner Kennel would be great. Of course, when you wrap it, you come downstairs. If your partner wraps it for you, you're pretty much going to know what it is by the size of it. It is the only kennel out there that is guaranteed for life, along with their food crates, which you should put Purina in their food crates. Perfect combination. You can't buy a better, safer, stronger life. You'll put the thing in your will, okay? You've heard me say that 100 times. Garmin is the best in canine training and navigation out there. Hands down, flat out. Google it. Just Google it. You don't believe me? Google it. All the pros, all the guys who are out there, the traveling wing shooters, everybody uses Garmin because they know, okay? Peace of mind for training and navigating. Canine athlete, now there's something I could give the dogs. They'll eat the whole thing. No. Anyway, canine athlete, new dog, hydrate and recover, probiotics. You could put it in your Christmas stocking, I guess. It's not that big. Could. But don't forget about your dogs. Additional little things you can do for your dog. W Hunting Supply. If you're looking for, if you're getting ready to train your next dog, I want you to go to W Hunting Supply. You can get your lead ropes. You can get your starter pistols. You can get your ammo. You can get all the Garmin. Even if you don't use Garmin, God forbid, W Hunting Supply's got everything you need to get your dog on the way. The deck drawer system has got the room to put everything I just talked about, except for the Gunner Kennel. I could put all my gear in my deck drawer system, and I'm ready to go. You check it out. And free shipping, okay? They have free shipping. I think you just go to Decked, and they'll track it. They'll track it. But free shipping, that's no light order. Shipping is, this thing is heavy. It comes on a semi, okay? And you don't want to go through, trust me. If you don't have a deck drawer system, you're not going to get that under your tree. I guarantee that. But you will never be sorry. I see them. I just wish these things were around when I was in construction years ago, because it would have been in every truck I have. Shooting Sports Magazine. That was a great episode we did with Tom Davis. The new episode, the new magazine's coming out soon. Go to Shooting Sportsman Magazine. Give that for Christmas. That's a great Christmas present. That's a great stocking stuffer. Give it to yourself. But if you really want to give the ultimate gift, give yourself the gift of being a better trainer. That was smooth, wasn't it? Go to the Upland Institute. We are going to have, if you are on Upland Institute's email list, which means you go there, you look at all the cool videos, and you look at the intro, and you look at the videos for trained retrieve and advanced bird work and found, you're going to get a feeling for what it's all about. And we are for people who are signed up to that, we are going to have a Cyber Monday sale. Oh, yeah. First time ever. It'll be very short, but if you've been Upland Institute curious and you want to be a better trainer, go to the website, get your name in the contact page. Everybody there on Monday who has got the contact, if we have your information, we're sending you a little something for your stocking. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? Well, here we go. This is Ben and I drinking coffee, talking about grouse, talking about his dogs, talking about my dogs, but mostly about what it takes to put habitat on the ground, where it's going, where it's been, and where we think it can go, or where we think it can get to. And some really good news on the front. Really good news. Projects getting done all over the country. Listen up, and don't forget, Giving Tuesday. If you're not an RGS member yet, it's time. Hey, everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. I am on the phone with one of my favorite return guests, Dr. Benjamin Jones. And for those of you who don't know who that is, it's Ben Jones, the fearless leader of the Ruffed Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society. We are having a 7:30 in the morning coffee cast instead of a podcast. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, Ron. Hey, everybody. Don't forget, too, this is like we were all nostalgic about this being kind of an anniversary thing, because the first time we ever talked, I think, was right around Thanksgiving of 3 years ago.
That's right.
So
that's right.
This is an anniversary podcast.
Do you think we should start sending, like, cards and stuff to each other?
Man, I love the Thanksgiving time. You know, you're kind of the end of the bird season, but our deer season's about to start. So Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. You're clearly one of my favorite guys. So I just think we should always do something for Thanksgiving.
Well, then let's just do that. Let's forget the card.
Let's keep it. No cards. No cards. Podcast.
Okay, just podcast. You know what's funny about cards, though? I got this friend. I think you might have met him. You've met him for a short spell. Not Roof, my best buddy you lodged with at Beer Mountain, but my buddy Chip. I think he was out at Johnny's when we dove hunted. Yeah.
Yep, a couple times,
yep.
Of course.
And he's one of these guys who, after you visit or go there and have breakfast in the morning, he'll get his stationery out, and he's, for a guy that, as I say, finished college and has less education than I do, okay, I think he just went to college so he could play sports, but he handwrites with wonderful penmanship like you don't see anymore. A note like, Ron, was really great when you were here. Debbie said this. Here are those seeds from those heirloom tomatoes that I promised I would send. Can't wait to see you again, Chip. And it's in a little envelope. And I tell you what, when you get a card still, I mean, I don't know anybody, I don't have any other friend that does that. Do you have anybody that still writes on a card to you?
I write a bunch of them because on the very, very, very rare occasion that I get them, I don't know. Here's me like being nostalgic again. It's absolutely wonderful to see somebody's written note on a piece of paper. So I write as many of them as I can because I love to get them, but it's not reciprocating. I don't get any back. But I do like to write them.
Yeah, see, I got, like, if I do it, I'd have to have stationery that was so impressive because my handwriting, being a lefty, is so pitiful. It almost looks...
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's such a personal thing to see someone's writing, messy or not, just on paper. There's something to it.
Well, I'm going to give you a tip, and I think I mentioned this on another podcast. My daughter's actually... Jessie listens to the podcast now because she kind of runs my Instagram and helps me out with stuff, and she told her sister Kelsey to listen to the end of the last or two podcasts ago. So what I did I think on 2 shotguns, and now that I've got all these grandkids and I've got different shotguns, like 2 of them are already pre-assigned. The short little grouse gun is going to go to Mara, my granddaughter. I got this old model 12-16 gauge. It's too long. It's too long in length to pull for me. So that one's going to go to Lincoln because his dad is 6'7" tall, and and Lincoln is 2 years old now, and he's already 36 inches tall.
He's going to appreciate that length of pull. I love it.
Exactly. But what I'm doing, and I think I read this, and it's probably in some Shooting Sportsman or some magazine way back in the day, or Upland Almanac. I take the receiver plate off the butt of the gun and put in my oldest hunting license. And I've got hunting licenses that go back to 1972 from Illinois, like the actual different color. It's really cool. It's like, there's like an off yellow and there's a blue year and a green year. And I've got them stored in a little old photo album. But going to the handwritten note thing, now I'm going to write a note to Lincoln about the gun and about what I did with the gun, and it's going to go in the stock. And he won't know. He won't know about it, and he may never know about it. Now, hopefully, his mom will tell him. But I'm not going to give him the gun someday and say, "Oh, by the way, there's a note from Grandpa in the stock."
Yeah.
And some story I heard one time or read where a guy was taking the butt plate off his stock to put a new pad on or something, and looked inside there where the stock screw is, and pulls out an old hunting license from like the 30s, and he's like,
"Oh man."
And it's like, because sometimes when you get these old used guns, which I'm a big fan of, you always wonder, like, when you're holding that walnut in your hands, it's like that's like shaking hands with the guy who used it, but you don't know who used it, So there's a little time. Boy, I brought that all the way around full circle.
Yeah, I'm kind of nostalgically reverent for stuff like that. We were rebuilding this house and found a bunch of stuff in the walls, like you're saying, in the buttstock, and just things from before World War II and stuff dating back to the late 1800s, handwritten in the walls of this house, and it was just
what were they using it for?
Super cool.
Were they using it for insulation?
I don't. It's almost like they just stuffed it in there like a time capsule.
No kidding.
Maybe someday somebody will find this and think it's cool.
I know. If they ever go up into my mom's house in Chicago and look in the closet under the floorboards.
Oh, no. What do you got?
Well, there was some magazines that I wasn't actually allowed to have at home. But, I mean, it's a little bit of a time capsule for my teenage years. We'll just leave it at that. There's no nostalgic note or my name on anything. But some young kid living in a city ever notices these loose boards, he might get a well, those magazines weren't even very good back then. But anyway, there we go.
You talk about the guns. I've got some of my granddad's guns that I would love to just know a little bit more about. So I think, man, people could be well advised to listen to what you're saying there and write somewhere some little note about that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the miles you put on one of those guns, and my pap too, but I don't really know any that I can imagine.
Yeah.
It'd be super cool to have a note, just a little more about it.
Yeah, I know. I would love it if I had a gun from a grandpa and there was his hunting license and there was a note, it would even be almost vague and say, not sure who has this gun, but blah, 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 blah. Just a short little. So anyway, that's everybody's project this year. If you're old enough to think about grandkids,
it's a good time of year to think about that stuff.
All right, let's get to business, Ben. Now we're going to get into the dogs and all that stuff, but we got to we got to get an update on RGS and AWS. What's going on out there?
All right, you're going straight to
we'll get to the meat.
We'll bring it back around to dogs. All right, so I was telling you earlier, I want to run something by your listeners, and of course, love feedback on whether this makes sense or whether it needs to lay on the cutting room floor. But it's just a brief run through thinking about 2 key aspects of conservation nonprofit business. So here we go. You've got 2 key components to how a conservation nonprofit works, and one really can't work without the other. And funding-wise, we go out and we secure grants. We're doing these stewardship contracts with timber sales through the Forest Service. And so it's mission-related money that's directly making things happen on the ground. It's the planted tree, the cut tree, the removed invasives. So there's this mission funding pot of money that we're out there always trying to secure. Mm-hmm. It's just like for your business, you're always trying to get contracts.
Sure.
You're doing bids, you're responding to RFPs, you're going after contracts.
You bet.
Now, the other key part, and this is sometimes overlooked in the nonprofit realm, is we're looking for a better word here. So I'd love your listeners to offer some up. That operating piece. So this is having the people to apply to the RFP. When you get the contract, having the people to make the habitat work happen, to coordinate with the DNR. So you've got kind of the gears of the machine, and then you've got the mission funding, and I hope it's clear at this point, the one can't work without the other. And I think I've said it on this podcast before, is that if somebody came to me with $1 billion, billion with a B, and said, here's this money, you can only apply it to habitat. I don't want you paying for any staff or any trucks for staff to get around or any of that stuff. I'd have to give the $1 billion back, because without the gears of the machine, I couldn't use it. It would be like you getting a huge contract with your business, but you can't hire any workers, or you can't get them their equipment or put them in trucks to get to the job site and do what they need to do. Breaking it down, there's these two really important pots. So I kind of want to set the next State of the Union piece with that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, go ahead. Keep it rolling. I'm digging it.
Oh, okay. All right. So we went into COVID, and our goal within the first couple weeks, we knew it was just going to be a mess, and you could tell. We had hoped it wasn't going to be 20 months later, and we're still dealing with it.
Right.
But we had said we're going to come out of COVID, whenever that happens, stronger than we entered. So we weren't just with our masks on under our desks, kind of riding out the storm. We're taking some of the opportunities and trying to rebuild RGS to come out stronger. And today we're able to do that. And one of the best ways to show that we've done that is with this mission-based funding. And so when I look back, I went back to 2015 and looked at how much funding did we receive in that mission-based, those grant-type dollars for direct habitat work on the ground. And every year, back to 2015, it was somewhere right around $450,000 a year, that gets some habitat work done, no doubt about it. And that's nice work. At the end of the second quarter in 2021, we were at 4.3 million.
How?
Right.
How?
Because of the gears of the machine. That's the really important point here.
I wish you'd have helped me run my business 20 years ago. I could be fully retired, Ben.
It's just having the right skill sets and the right seats. And we, as everybody knows, we did some reorganizing through COVID. We brought in our forest conservation directors, have shifted our business model, and we were asking people to trust us. We've got this new business model, been doing conservation delivery for a while. This is going to work. It was a trust us, but now it's not trust us anymore. It's 10x.
Wow.
From $450,000 of mission-based funding to about 4.3 million. So that to me is really sums up the State of the Union for RGS, I think.
Wow. On a first blush, I just want to say, okay, like you have to say it over again, because it doesn't seem possible. It sounds like some new stock offering that went through the roof. You know what I mean? It's like, here was this little company that made widgets, and they went public, and then, wow, look at all these people apparently wanted this widget. It sounds like a stock story off a New York Stock Exchange.
Well, the next part of this, Ron, this is only one step in the proof of concept. So your listeners and me, personally, me as the CEO of the Ruffed Grouse Society, I don't care about dollars per se. I care about the habitat that they make.
Right.
And so what those dollars are attached to, and the various agreements and a lot of work on public and private lands, of course, is acres. So what we're going to be seeing over into ending this year, going into 22, is those dollars at work. So it's going to be habitat being created. So that's the next step. And here it is. Here's the habitat on the ground. You can go hunt this thing.
I got a great analogy. Let me put this on pause. I gotta grab something. I'll be right there. So, what you said to me, Ben, was like you don't think of it in the dollars, you think of it in the habitat. And that made me think of like the cover of the next or some issue of Covers magazine. Like having a graph that shows the years and the acres going up. Because it's been like the acres have they just been static for all these years? I mean, was there a few years back in history where they jumped up and then just this, because really it is acres of habitat that you're working on, right?
Yeah, we're totally focused on acres of habitat. Absolutely. The habitat is related to directly to the dollars. I mean, that and the funding we're pursuing and the commercial timber sales are all directly habitat related. So yeah, the dollars will equal habitat. And I could do one example, and this is just how the acres are going to skyrocket. We're involved with the Moose Collaborative, it's called, in Minnesota. So it's forest habitat, moose, grouse, same habitats. I've talked about that before too.
Yeah.
It's $1.8 million, but it's going to impact over 35,000 acres.
Holy smokes.
So,
I don't want to pump any sunshine up your skirt, but how did this just change? I mean, what was this like? Did you guys all put your thinking caps on? This had to start up before COVID, I would guess, right? Or was it? Was it because of this at home this panic mode that we went into, so to speak?
Are you recording again?
Oh yeah. We're locked on, buddy.
Oh man. Well, it's a lot. It was, like I said, with COVID, it was a chance to really look at things, and it was so disruptive that you could really look at your business models. And so we talked about this being our 3-year anniversary for this podcast. This is still my mandate from our board of directors when they brought me on.
Oh, okay. All right.
It wasn't come in and run the Ruffed Grouse Society, make it look the same as it has always been, and we're real happy with the acres, and just keep the thing going, bud.
Okay. So part of your job interview was not just to replace the last CEO. That wasn't you're just not. No, you weren't just for a pretty face and the way you can play guitar. In other words,
those are things I bring to the table, Ron. Let's be honest.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it was. We want the Ruffed Grouse Society to increase its impact. There's been a ton of great work done over the years, without question. It's a 60-year organization, tons of great work, a great reputation.
Yeah.
And we see, or we believe that there's more that can be done, so we want to be more impactful. And I came to that interview saying, hey, I'm seeing some things out there where I think the Ruffed Grouse Society could be more impactful in forest wildlife realm. It's a real niche. Let's talk about that. And so, I came out of that specifically with the mandate to build the business model for greater impact. So here it's 3 years and nothing ever. I'm an impatient type. And so 3 years to me is too long, but it's sometimes you've got an organization with a 60-year history. Sometimes it can be like steering a battleship to change happen.
Takes a little while to turn it around a little bit, you mean?
But interestingly, Ron, and this is one of the things where COVID really helped, because it was just so disruptive that it kind of blew the wheels off the thing and you had to rebuild it. You know what I mean?
Right. You knew the banquets were gone, right? You knew that. And that was always historically a lot of money coming in.
Sure. Yeah. it was disruptive in most areas, and I think everybody will agree. So we just rebuilt it back in a different way, and I think actually it was able to turn this corner, as you alluded to, a bit quicker than we would have been able to otherwise.
Right. So is there I don't want to say a cap on this. I mean, that's a big jump. It's a 10x jump, right? Is that sustainable for a while? And I mean, I'm sure you guys think about these things for 5-year plans, 10-year plans. It sounds funny because I've got a place in the southeast, in Virginia. There's the George Washington National Forest where I've hunted. I can hardly find a cut anymore, or something that's habitat decent for. There's plenty of bear running around, but bear don't need what grouse need exactly. Although they do like acorns, but
man, they love a good cut too. All the blackberry brambles and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. I got that from that timber sale we did. I went out to get some wood this year, and I could not believe since spring, like I got blackberry canes coming up through all these brush piles, snagging my coat. It was amazing. But where I'm going is, we have enough habitat in North America that this is sustainable for a long time. Like I look at those woods in a George Washington, like, my God, it needs work. So is the plan like really resonating because it's new, or is it because it's making the most sense, or are the states jumping in, or where's like the big GER coming from? That's a big GER.
Okay, all right. There's a couple things to unwrap right there. So, first, clearly, the habitat need is astronomical.
Yeah.
This 10x increase is really only the beginning. And we'll go back to, the habitat work is there. The potential funding is there. And as we've talked about in our business model of being able to leverage the funding from commercial timber sales to do more work, I mean, you can see where this thing really is a snowball rolling downhill. So I see the $4.3 million just being a start.
Okay.
And the work is there, the funding is there. But, Ron, here's the part and why we started off with the two important buckets that feed off of each other. To keep growing and keep growing all these programs for habitat, we've got to also build staff. So that on-the-ground implementation, the gears of the thing, the operations budget, having people able to do it is an important part, because we're at a point already with our current staff where we're saying, okay, we just did a 10x increase. We're going to need additional staff if we're going to increase further.
Right.
Because this is pretty much all our current forest conservation directors can handle.
Wow.
And in the dog trading world, Mark Fouts used to say this: you'd rather teach whoa than go.
Yeah.
So with our forest conservation directors, I hate to say this, but right now it's like, okay, guys, whoa, because they're saying, whoa, we've got all this on our plate right now. We don't want things to start falling off the end. So I'm having to say, okay, whoa. But this is where that investment in the operations side, when we can increase staffing, then we can keep going, and this snowball will roll downhill. And what the heck, I'll go for this. I don't know that I've said this publicly much, mostly because people think I'm nuts, but it's out there, Ron. And what I have in mind, and I say this to staff, is we take this from a $5 million revenue endeavor to a $50 million revenue endeavor within 5 to 10 years.
Well, Microsoft did it. You can do it.
Well, the funding is there.
Yeah.
The habitat need is clearly there.
Yeah.
We need to bring it together. And again, this is why that operations side is so important. And to you, like keying people's trucks, this is where membership comes in. Membership dollars go into that operating piece. So it's the membership that makes sure we have people on the ground signing the deals, laying out the projects, and getting them done.
So there's got to be a call to action here for, like the listeners who are slackers all this time. that have
No,
not.
there's always
Always a call.
There's always a call to action. Yeah, membership, and we've got Giving Tuesday coming up next Tuesday, and end of the year is a big philanthropic time of year. So as nonprofits, it's a really important time of year for us. The vast majority of donating occurs in this last quarter. So we're all working our tails off, making sure that we're securing those funds to keep growing this thing.
I have a little segue for that, and we're going to keep going. I want to keep going a little bit on the habitat, but when you and I talked a week or so ago and said, let's get this out with Giving Tuesday and everything coming up, I told you my buddy Ruffed, I don't know where he heard it from, but it was like from, let's say, a guy my age, even if your kids are maybe just teenagers, like your oldest teenager, right? And you and I just talked before we hit record, like, oh, the holidays are here. It's such a pain in the butt. Like, hey, Dad, what do you want for Christmas? Oh, I don't want a tie. You don't wear a tie to work, and I don't need another wrench. And when I told my girls for my birthday, which was just the end of October, I said, I want you, all three of you, in fact, my wife ended up doing it too. I want all three of you to enroll yourself in RGS. I want you to become RGS members, and just that's your birthday gift to me. Like, if they're going to spend $35 on something that's eventually going to, everything we buy eventually goes into the garbage, right? Almost everything, except maybe a plaque. And so like right there, my three daughters all became RGS members for a present to me. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to go out there and shoot grouse, and one of them will. But it's just getting, like, people, like, that magazine's going to be in their house. To me, it's like, if I go into a house and there's an RGS magazine or anything, Upland Almanac, it's like I'm in friendly territory. And when their friends come over, I mean, it could have a little trickle down, but I'm just saying to the people who, like, don't know what you want for Christmas, right? Or your wife's like, oh, I always get you something little. Have your wife join. If you're going to spend, $35 or $65 on some little trinket, and we all do, so that's what they did for Christmas or for my birthday. So I suggest people do that. You can do it through Giving Tuesday or whatever deal they can find. But if you're sitting there struggling to give your other half an idea for a Christmas present, make that the Christmas present.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Yeah, it's fantastic.
RGS just increased by 4 October 30th. I can tell you that. 4 people. And I told them this is perpetual. I don't want another. I don't want a gun case next October. You keep up your RGS membership, and I think a lot of people could get that done, as opposed to buying stuff that just. I don't say we're a wasteful society, but we're a wasteful society, Ben. A lot of these presents we get just don't get utilized a lot. So there's that half of that thing. So keep it rolling. What do you think?
I love it. I think it's a fantastic idea. And for me too, there's nothing that I can think of that I really want. So supporting an organization that I care about.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I can hear my people, and I say, hey, you guys should join RGS. They'll be like, we're up to our eyeballs in RGS around here.
Well, it might be a little tougher sell at your house, okay? But at your average RGS member's house, you might be able to get it done,
Certainly. I'm not representative in that way.
No, exactly.
I think it's an absolutely wonderful idea.
Right. So, Ben, when you talk about, the 10X in from 400 and some thousand to 4 million, what does that equal in acres, or is there an acre chart for that? Has anybody ever put together, like, it takes $1,000 for a 10-acre plot? Is there a formula to it, or is it just too hard to do around the country?
Well, the neat thing about it is the way we've been talking a lot about the landscape scale that we need to pursue. So we really can't be going after kind of one-off projects. We really need to be hitting on things that are doing work at scale. Mm-hmm. Because back to this point that, God, there's a lot of work to do. I think what also is going to play out with this is the dollars per cost per acre is going to go down because there's an economy of scale when you're doing habitat work. So that's next here for end of year, is summing up as these agreements are being finalized, the acres that are associated with each of them. And I'm not sure if we were recording when I mentioned, but that Moose Collaborative, that's $1.8 million. It's going to be over 35,000 acres. So, there's definitely an economy of scale with this habitat work.
Ben, I'm assuming, and this is, you should never assume, do you, or, your foresters would be up there in that project. Have you seen, I'm trying to picture, I kind of know what moose habitat is. I've seen some here and there. What does that look like, let's say, in Minnesota? Are they just coming in and putting in, are they grinding it up, or are they just logging it off and letting nature rebuild it? What does it look like on the ground for, say, that area?
It's the same thing as rough grouse habitat or whitetail habitat or black bear habitat. You really need that forest diversity.
Right.
So for moose, you're going to have some of that young forest, some of that cover. You're also going to have some of that older conifer mixed in. Some of the work is, I guess, what we call restoring degraded forests. So forests that are in a poor health condition, bringing them, making them more vibrant. It includes a whole lot of prescribed fire.
Oh,
so
wow.
When you talk about being able to manage at scale, fire is a really efficient means. And I could just give you an example. When I was working here in my home state on game lands, we took our cost per acre with fire from several $100s per acre if we were doing burn units around a couple hundred acres in size, down to $7 per acre if we were doing burn units that were over 1,000 acres in size.
Wow.
So you can get a lot of habitat work done with fire. I'm going to focus on this somewhere early in 2022, the importance of fire. We talk a lot about cutting and timber harvest.
Yeah, people can get their eye, especially I just did that. I look at what the loggers did on my property. A little hard to look at until I get all the brush piles, conjugated and everything. But I can see that I can relate to that. Or some people, who used to, it's like the word clear cut. It was kind of like a 4-letter word. It's like, oh no, we can't just knock all it. But
we know the cutting part is really effective,
right.
But there's also a really important role for prescribed fire too.
Right.
And that with the Moose Collaborative is really important.
The fire part is almost like it's kind of like we're getting people. Let's just say, ideally, we're getting people on the page to say, okay, I get it, forest management, young forest, and let's not go ooh when we see a 20, 40 acre area. They leave a few trees, but they pretty much clear cut it. People, let's say we got America to say cutting trees is good again, right? Please print this email, I tell my wife, I said, more paper towels, more paper plates. She's like, no. I said, no, we are. But how do we get people, you think of fire and all we see on the news is fire. Of course, it's a different kind of fire. It's not prescribed. How does fire play? How do you deal with not just the fire, but the idea of convincing people that not only do we need to cut trees, sometimes we just need to burn the ground. How does that look?
Well, this is we're diving deep here, but this is an interesting part of this conversation. Is fire, I think, actually can be a bit of a bridge for us, because you're seeing, as part of this wildfire conversation, is the need to manage forests using prescribed fire, and that, believe it or not, is being relatively well received.
Wow.
It becomes a little bit different when you're out doing a prescribed fires. It's like a not in my backyard thing, so there's still that fear of it.
Yeah.
But overall, there's an acceptance of prescribed fire. And that can bring groups together that haven't worked together before. And I'll take the Moose Collaborative as an example. We're working in close partnership with the Nature Conservancy. And that tie that binds there in some of these cases, even with environmental groups that may have in the past really opposed logging, we can find some commonality in prescribed fire use. So in that way, it could kind of be a bridge of us talking about disturbance regimes and how we get forest resiliency using fire, using a little bit of harvest. So I think the fire piece can be a bit of a bridge maker.
Hey, whoa. We got a little dog fight going on here. Oh, it's just over a bone. Never mind.
They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. We'll go to the vet later. Yeah, see, I would have thought that would have been a harder bridge, like a tougher bridge to build. But it's
not. Today, culturally, actually, I feel like cutting trees and forest management is a bit tougher pill than the fire piece. The fire piece is starting to resonate with the public as far as, we need to burn some of these areas.
And that doesn't mean you just burn. There's still going to be some cutting. But is there some areas that just, are there areas that would just be good for another, and I mean, just totally right off the top of my head, are there areas that could be improved for a short term with just a prescribed fire without logging? Or is logging always going to be part of it?
Well, it can, and in many cases is going to be part of it. But let's go back to your place down in the Central Appalachians, and that country where your buddy Chip lives.
Yeah.
There's been work done down there by the Nature Conservancy and the Forest Service that shows on areas where you can't get there from here. You know the ridges and hollows.
Oh, yeah, there's some of them you just can't.
You can't harvest there.
Right.
Yet there are still forest health issues and the need for young forests. So what the Nature Conservancy has been doing is laying out huge, by today's standards, certainly huge prescribed burn units of up to 5,000 acres in size.
Wow.
And lighting these things using a helicopter. And since it's such a large burn unit, that fire can kind of get rolling in there and behave naturally. And what they're seeing is that it's what we call poking holes in the canopy. So those fires are big enough that they're actually causing some tree mortality in these remote areas and very naturally making that age interspersion of different age forests. So one complaint you'll often hear, especially with our members in the Appalachians, is, well, those fires don't burn hot enough to make any young forest. And that just depends how you're putting fire on the ground. We can prescribe fire in a way where it will create some young forest, and they're doing that in parts of Virginia.
Wow.
And the Southern Apps. So, yeah, I mean, we're in the way technical deep dive here, Ron, but it's pretty exciting.
Right. And I'm not going to, I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to watch it one day, but not actually from the helicopter,
You're not going to be the guy in the ship. I was always too tall to get in there. I never felt comfortable with going up.
Yeah.
And when you're running the machine that's lighting the fire from the helicopter, you've got 1 foot out on the skid of the ship. So you're halfway sitting out of that.
Yeah, we'll pass on that one.
Not this guy.
But, and I guess maybe I'm thinking selling that fire thought, I just saw a fire, what was left of a fire when I was up in Alaska in October. And, this fire took, I don't know how many tens of thousands of acres. And then just driving by it, and that was just a natural fire, lightning-caused fire. And it was amazing. Like, it took a few years because it was, I guess fires burn at different kinds, right? There's fires that sometimes just kind of bark the trees. Then there's fires that just kill everything, right? And it's a little harder for things to grow. But you could see the greenery coming up. Like as we were driving up this forest trail road. It was like a 2-hour Jeep trail to get to where we were going. And I'm telling you, for 20 minutes of the drive, all I saw was burnt trees. But when you got the right angle, you saw some color, so to speak, some leaf coming through, And to me, that would be like, well, that would be a hard sell, But in the end, that's going to probably be one of the best hunting spots in the Kenai Peninsula in 15 years from now or 5 years from now.
Yeah, this is so interesting on people's perspective, and like my Pap used to say, it depends whether you're buying or selling. But for RGS members, they get upset about fire because they don't feel like it kills enough trees. If you talk to most RGS members in the Central and Southern Apps, they'll say, fire's no good because it never burns hot enough to actually kill trees. So they want to see them charred and dead because they know that's how you make young forests. But fire is an important part of this this whole mix and part of the direction we're going.
Was that always a part of forest management though, or did RGS just start, encompassing, or did RGS always have kind of a handle on that historically, or do you know?
Well, fire's turning the corner right now. There's just in the past decade or so, there, as I mentioned, there seems to be a lot more public license to be able to do prescribed fire. And the research on the importance of prescribed fire to managing forests has really just come into its own over the past decade and a half. So RGS has always, of course, been right in the middle of all things sustainable forest management.
Right.
And it's only now that it's really becoming like a real standard component of forest management. The science is pretty clear that you need to have fire for forest management. So, of course, the Ruffed Grouse Society is going to be right there cheering that on.
Yeah.
And making it happen.
That's a lot to swallow. But to go back to, Giving Tuesday coming up, we still got to do the membership, right? We still got to get the people, we still got to do, what do we do for that? When you told me that time at my kitchen table, you said somewhere around, 1 or 1.5% of grouse hunters are members of RGS, and I kind of flipped out. I'm like,
yeah,
what can we do there? It almost sounds like it's easier to get the habitat project going than it is to get the membership up.
Yeah,
Is that the canary in the coal mine, or is that?
Yeah, well, it's communications too. You've got to be able to communicate what you're doing. So that's why this is important. That's why you spoke with Ashley Peters, having a fantastic professional that's trained in marketing and communications.
Right.
How do you communicate all these things? Because when you're in a nonprofit, a member-supported nonprofit, it's not enough just to do the work, as odd as that may seem, Ron,
Yeah.
It's not enough just for us to do the work. We've really got to communicate it. And there's really fantastic conservation work going on. So this is a field that I've been in for over 20 years, and I've never been as excited about the opportunities as what RGS is going to be able to do. But that's not enough. We've really got to communicate that to members and let people know what's going on. And it's complex. As you and I are talking about, this is just the tip of the conversation. You're engaging in all these things for forest management. It's a deep conversation, and you just need to figure out how to deliver that out so members understand what's going on, so that non-members get excited and want to join.
Well, I'm going to do my part, but it's like it's almost like we have to have that, like a think tank. Like, okay, what else? Who else? What other group? If you say the Nature Conservancy, what other group do we need to, wake up and say, hey, we're on the same board? Or are we doing that too with Wild Turkey and other companies? Is that part of the play, or are you looking for more partners?
So the partners are key in this, in every bit of this. So when you look at all that work that's being done, most of it, the vast majority of it, is in close partnership. Whether it's the Nature Conservancy, this is the really cool part right now with opportunity. It's what I would call, I guess, non-traditional partners for RGS. We're partnering with Audubon. We're partnering with the American Bird Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy.
Right.
And of course, our long-time strong partners like Quail Forever, Pheasants Forever, NWTF.
Yeah, back then though, those people are like preaching to the choir, though, right?
That's right.
And now getting these new groups on is reaching whatever their membership is to say, it's all. Whether they think about, we always think about the hunting, but it's got to be way more than the hunt. It always should have been, but I think it's got to be. You got to get that message across that it's really not about hunting. Like hunting should be the bycatch of the project almost.
There's no doubt about it, and it all comes down to you said it. You've got to get the word out, and not just get the word out, but get it out in a way that's resonating with people, I could blab all day long about this stuff, and Ashley will redirect and say, well, you don't want to use this word. That doesn't resonate with people. Instead, use this word. And I'm like, I'd never use that word. She's like, but that's what people are going to listen. That's what people will hear. So, this is why you have your communications professionals guiding you in that part. And it's not enough just to do the work. We've got to communicate about it well. And so, Ron, thankful for you, because for all 3 years I've been here, you're helping us get this word out to a great audience. So appreciate you and everybody that listens.
I mean, it's certainly, when I really got into what I'd say, when I finally moved to Michigan, I hunted in Illinois for sure. But when I finally got here, and I've told you this, and people have heard me say it, my buddy Jeff Peterman took me, grouse hunting first time. And it was only 4 miles from my house. Still a spot I can go in a few areas. But I just took it for granted. I moved to Michigan, I bought a license, and I went grouse hunting with a friend of mine. And it was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know anything about the Ruffed Grouse Society then. I didn't know. So, I was one of those people who just grouse hunted and wasn't a member. But, short of the, I wonder if we need, okay, when you go out west and you go grouse hunting, let's say I hunted on the Nebraska State Forest, which sounds funny because it's really rolling sand hills. But they got wing barrels, right? Any service road you go in and there's a wing barrel, and they ask you to put a wing of the grouse so they can age them and see how the hatch was, and you know how that works. Maybe now we need to have any Forest Service road has the RGS membership barrel. I know that's corny, but it's almost like we need a sign that says, if you're enjoying your day, think about it in a little deeper. Don't just run out with your buddies for 3 hours and go grouse hunting. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot more to it. Or have barrel. You can have a wing barrel, you can have an RGS member barrel, and you can have a donate to fire barrel. I don't care how they do it, but there's got to be something, another way of getting the average, or the bear hunters. The bear hunters. Yeah. They've got their groups. Everyone's got a group, and I'm glad they're all working together. But I wonder what the next group is that we don't think of that would be the next best partner for us. There's got to be there, Yeah.
Well, it's I think for most of the groups you mentioned, and whether it's bird watchers or bear hunters, it's going to be getting in that habitat and seeing that bird that's on your bucket list, or having that fantastic hunt, and then being able to say, this is how this happened, and this is what it takes.
Right.
And back to the two buckets, Ron, I get it that when whether it's foundations or individuals or whatever say, I want all my funding going right to the habitat. I don't want to fund somebody's salary. Right. I don't want to fund trucks. I don't want to fund a computer. I want my work going right to habitat. I get it, man. I think that's a pretty natural response. So, oh man, Ashley may tell me I completely flopped on this, but I'm just trying to communicate the importance of that staff member, the importance of that truck, and the absolute necessity of that person and their gear to be able to get the habitat work done.
Yeah, it goes back to your first where we started. You can get all the purchase orders in the world if you don't have a crew to get the job done. So let's say 20 different distribution companies around the country said, Ron, we'd love you and your crew to come out and put our conveyor in. I'm like, well, I only got the one crew. Pretty soon they're going, well, we can't call Ron because he's always busy. He's busy in his little bubble,
So what does that mean if the Forest Service gets to that point?
Yeah.
And says, well, we've got RGS completely booked. I guess we need to stop doing this work.
Ooh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that resonates right there.
Right.
So is that in the silly question, but that employee side of it and that equipment side of it, that's all in this plan as well. It's all got to go in whatever scale. It's got to keep moving forward with those many troops.
And then it has to, Ron. So if you figure kind of envisioning these two lines climbing,
right?
if you get that habitat piece gets out ahead of the other one, then at that point you're over your skis.
I love
And
that
you
term.
yeah, and you need to back. I mean, quite literally, can you see yourself tipping over? Like,
oh yeah,
man, we got more contracts. Anybody that has a business, we got more contracts than staff can handle.
Right.
Shit, we've got a problem.
Yeah, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, right. So you're absolutely right.
So, well, I'll volunteer to do something. You don't have to put me on staff, but anyway, I would love to. I'm excited when you told me that the numbers that have changed, since COVID started. I mean, that just sounded like it's like I said in the beginning. It sounded like a little company that went with a public offering. It's like, wow. But the same thing with that little company. They can only make so many widgets. Doesn't matter if Walmart wants to put it in all their stores. If they can't make their widget. So how do we?
Well, we've got the benefit of we talk about the Ruffed Grouse Society as being a 60-year-old startup.
Yeah.
So you're right. There is kind of that startup piece because we've turned a corner on a new business model, but we haven't just been a startup. We have this awesome backing of 60 years and an established organization. So we have this foundation that most startups don't have.
Right. Right.
So we're really the best of both worlds as a 60-year-old startup where we got the foundation, but we changed our business model and it's all coming together.
Kind of like a guy that's had pointing dogs his whole life and now he's got flushers. Yeah, I get it. Wow, was that a smooth transition into the dogs or what, Ben? Was that smooth?
That was a transition into troubled waters. I'm not going to comment on choice of dogs at all.
Well, I would be, as they say, remiss because I'm going to do this in my typical fashion. You've had bird dogs for many years, and your older dog Pax, who I can't do the Latin name for it because I'm a dog name snob. It's like, I've heard Susie 100 times, Rosie 100 times. Your older dog is Pax, which is part of the taxonomical name of woodcock, right? How does that work?
Yeah, so the genus and species for woodcock is Scolopax minor. So, yeah, he was named Pax. Yeah. And
he came from some hard charging cover dog stuff, right? Back in the day.
Yeah, for listeners who geek out on the cover dog side, he's a 10-star dog. So yeah, he's full on field trial stock and
at 11 years of
really
age,
hard.
He doesn't even know he's 11 years old, does he?
Well, he gets to know it, but out of the gate, he's like ready to do a big lap.
He's ready. He's almost ready for a competition, right? Like, I didn't know we were just going to go hunting. I thought we were running a marathon with 300 people today.
Oh, man. Yep, he's still got it in him even at 11 years old.
And this is where the very sarcastic, mean side of me comes out. Now you have this new dog, Phoebe or B or Phenom, and you had to come to the Mitten State. You had to come to the Mitten State to get this dog, And I think there's a lot of setter breeders in Pennsylvania. But tell me how Phoebe's doing. Even though, just admit you, in your search for setters, you came to the real Mecca.
Yeah, well, apparently so. She's a wonderful dog. So it's really her second season. She pointed birds last year, and I killed some birds over when she was 7 months. So now she's at a year and a half and got a bunch of bird exposure. And I'm not one for keeping records because it's like just another thing to do. It's hard enough to get out and go hunting.
Right.
But I'm pretty confident that this dog pointed over 100 woodcock this year. Had a bunch killed over her and handled grouse beautifully too. So she's doing well. Not without knucklehead moments. I thought we were over this, but she took off on a deer the other day. She's 18 months old, but she's got a ton of promise and
still a teenager, but
she's certainly huntable.
She might be going into the Navy SEALs of the dog world maybe someday.
We'll see.
Tell me, what you told me the other day, like you had gone to an event and you were kind of thrown into like, Ben, we need somebody with a dog because we have because I love that. I mean, that's like nerve-wracking in my book. Like if somebody said right now, if Steve Ranella called me up right now and says, Ron, we haven't done an episode in 4 years. Bring your best dog out. We're going to do an episode. I got some private land to hunt. I'd be like, I don't have the dog anymore, right? Yeah. What happened with you and Phoebe?
Well, to set the stage for this, I had my quail pen full, working her a couple days a week through the end of the summer, going into the fall, and she's just handling beautifully. And we get to Minnesota the week before our national grouse and woodcock hunt, so our big event, and there were tons of woodcock around. So I took her out for the first day on the ground, and she acted like she had never smelled a bird, been told to point, like she thought she was a springer, not only bumping birds, but like leaping at them, just a train wreck.
I love train wreck. I love train wreck stories.
It's just a disaster. Yeah. And so I'm like, wow, this is going to be an interesting week. So put her up, get her back out, and she starts to dial in. And then she starts to do a little better. And I mentioned Mark Fouts earlier. I hunted with him just for a little bit on Tuesday of that week. And he said, let her make mistakes. Like you're micromanaging her, just let her go ahead. I said, all right. So I did that, and she just kept coming around. So by Wednesday, she's really, really doing well. And I thought I was going to have some hunts. These are some of our biggest supporters, and we have huntsmen with dogs who kind of serve as guides.
Right.
And I thought I was just going to kind of be, a tag along.
You were there to shake hands and, yeah, exactly.
Certainly hunt, but there would be some seasoned dogs on the ground, and maybe we'll get Phoebe out after everybody had a great day.
Right, because nobody wants to see Phoebe take out a grouse like a 10-pin bowling pin.
Here we go. So rolling into Thursday morning, the first day of the actual hunt, it comes to light that will be me taking some hunters without dogs with Phoebe. And so, as you might imagine, at the tailgate of the truck that morning, there was kind of this setup that was, well, we're working a young dog today. You never know what you get with a young dog. And wonderful people that have been doing this for a long time. They're like, yeah, let's go. She acted like a 7-year-old finished dog for the next 2 days.
Oh, God.
It was...
Did you fall on a horseshoe like on the way out there?
Ron.
That just doesn't happen.
The horseshoe is exactly right.
Yeah.
Wow.
The horseshoe is like the guys who have a can of dip in their jean pocket, and you can tell
oh my God.
when they do the laundry, there's like a white ring. So your ring in your jean pocket is shaped like a horseshoe, is what you're saying.
Oh, my gosh. And then she kept up great work. We had some other meetings. We ended up in the northeastern part of the state, and she continued to work really well. So she's got a ton of promise.
Man, I mean, people will tell you, or you'll hear, it takes contacts. And maybe those first contacts, and Mark telling you to just, don't worry, her genetics are going to play out. Because the training you did is kind of the training we all do. It's like, I just want to see her do this, and I just want to see her. But it's all T-ball at that point, right? It's all in T-ball. To me, I'm not I'm not a sports person at all. But when I hear somebody tell me that their kid's in T-ball, I want to take the T-ball bat and hit them with it, And the same thing sometimes with people, they overdo the quail or the chucker, and they're like, oh, we're doing good. Like, no, we're still playing T-ball here. And then you get not thrown into the minors, but you kind of got thrown into the majors as like, okay, I'm taking somebody out here. You explain it. They're not used to it, but they're like, yeah, we understand. But then to have the dog become like, one guy writes you a note that, I don't know if you bought a lottery ticket in Minnesota when you were there or not, but it might have been a good move.
You're absolutely right that it's exposures, and in hindsight, kind of piecing it all together, those first couple days with her just going nuts on these birds and bumping them and chasing them was she hadn't smelled a woodcock for a year. She had been doing real well on quail out of the pen.
Sure.
And she just needed a couple days to piece all that together. And then maybe that training part kicks in. And certainly, as Mark said, a light hand and letting her figure some of it out.
Right.
But to the work that you're doing with the training aids, I think it all comes back to those fundamental pieces, which
which you did.
We all kind of do the same.
Right. It's not. It's really playing t-ball is not a waste of time. It gets your batting. It gets your swing down. It gets the players in the field. But there's still that time when the pitcher's throwing the ball that you have to go like, "Woo! I swung and I missed." And I keep picturing you for a couple days, like swinging and missing. Because I've been there with dogs. I took one of my dogs to the South Dakota years ago. And we watched him clear a field of every pheasant that was. He ran the field like a springer. Oh no! Did not point, and all we did for like it. And I'm the only guy with the dog, But luckily, I was with friends that could just, really say how they feel. Like this dog just cleared this field. He had so much fun chasing birds, and then. And then by the virtue of the fact that he's chasing a bird that he can see, that's just popping more birds out of the field. So I won't give him credit for smelling every bird that he chased out of the field. But then it did not take long for him to go, oh, you know what, this works better if I do it a little bit of the foundation. Like he did know he was supposed to point. I've seen him point, but it's crazy how. But there's other dogs that sometimes don't get it. But, that's got to be – I'm saying that's probably where the foundation is 80% necessary, but the genetics are 80% necessary at the same time. Yeah.
I'm curious to know how the rest of this litter is doing.
That
genetics is there. Clearly she knows she has genetically all the bird dog pieces, but she also was brought up right in those first 8 weeks as a puppy with lots of socialization, lots of time with mom. So at the point when we got her as a puppy, she fell right into kind of the rhythm here. So it's all those things. It's been super fun. And she's laying here in her bed in the living room right now. She's
just chilling.
Everybody's pet. She and Paxi got their beds in here, so they're house pets too.
They get along good, both of them?
They get along excellent. And I think having her has probably added years to his life. They play in the yard and just have a ball.
Yeah, because at some point the dog's by himself. He's like, well, I guess I'll just chill. And now he's got like a teenage kid sister, kid brother,
Yeah.
And they got out the bat and the ball and they started playing catch again.
There's something I thought I would bring up, and if we're running short on time, you can cut this one out.
No, we're good. We're good.
Some people may find this handy. If you have, whether it's a spouse, partner, husband, wife, parent, whatever, that has an arbitrary number of dogs cap at your home, I came across something that might help. We have such a cap here, imposed in this case by my wife, of no more than 2 dogs. No questions asked. I'm not even challenging it. Like, yeah,
okay, all right.
But I am thinking. So we've got this span due to kids and career and stuff between the almost 2-year-old dog and the 11-year-old dog, and I'm trying to make a play for. We've got to get another one in the pipeline here. Absolutely not 2-dog cap. I found a chink in this armor recently with running Phoebe. That of course she comes in like she's got scratches under her eye, her tail's bleeding, she looks roughed up. And Michelle's like, boy, there might be something that I could see why you would need 2 dogs that you can run so you're not overrunning 1 dog. And I'm like, oh my.
You found
the pathway.
you found a tax loophole.
here's how we raise the arbitrary dog cap. Like, yeah, could really put her at risk running her that hard without another dog, other than Pack to run.
And you don't play it hard. You play it soft. Like, you're right.
So whether any of your listeners find that helpful for what I'll call the arbitrary dog limit.
Well, here, if you want to take it like one step further, maybe get some vet wrap when you go home. Not you particularly, but let's say that other guy who maybe he's at a one dog cap, right? But his wife really loves the dog, or vice versa. The husband really likes the wife's dog. What you do is you take your vet wrap out before you get home and you wrap up his front leg, even though there's nothing wrong with it, right? And you get like a little red Sharpie marker and you dot it so it kind of stains it. And she's like, or he's like, or the kids, what happened? What happened to Phoebe? Well, she was running so hard, and I didn't want to put her on the ground again, but it's the only dog I had, and she was probably a little more tired than she should have been, and she caught herself on that barbed wire fence. It'll be fine. You keep that vet wrap on for a couple days, and with the long hair, they'll never see the fact that it was not punctured. So you play like the fake cast on the arm, right?
Oh boy!
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, there's seldom a day when she comes in for real that she doesn't have some kind of
something bleeding.
Yeah, her left eye right now is swollen. I flushed it out after one of our hunts earlier.
You know what? Dogs are like fighters, though. They're like boxers. It's almost like you can't believe how they could get into the ring and just swing at each other. And you also can't believe how these dogs will just literally cut themselves up with abandon. They just don't care, right?
Yeah.
A dog that I've seen dogs that hurt their front leg, and it's a lot worse than a back leg. And they're like, I don't want to quit. It's like that Monty Python skit where the knight's cutting off the guy's arm. He's like, come on, you big baby. Come on.
Just keep going. I had early when I had Pax, a trainer told me, he said, when you get him home and he's a little bit stove up, if you want to give him something for pain to help him relax at night, that's fine before you put him in the kennel. He said, but never give it to him in the morning, because if he's not feeling a little bit of pain, this dog will run himself to death.
Right.
So him feeling a little bit of pain when he's running is going to be a good thing.
It's like my knee. Like, hey, no, there's a limitation here, and I am sore and I am tired. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
So give us a little, it sounds like you did a bunch of hunting in Minnesota that week. How's Pennsylvania looking this year?
Oh, yeah. So connection with this habitat piece and bird contacts and why dog people should care is this clearly is all about being able to go to places with really good habitat.
Right.
And so the Minnesota piece, I think the story of the week was woodcock. We had some hunters that had over 80 woodcock days.
Wow.
But it's a really fantastic managed landscape. You've got forest industry ground, bland and paper. You've got public ground that is well managed, some private pieces where the owners just manage the heck out of them. So really good habitat there. On the way back, I had some meetings in Wisconsin, hunted a day there on county land. And I think everybody knows what Wisconsin county land means. It's managed.
Yeah. As opposed to the federal problems they have. The state can do a better job, basically.
Yeah, and the county foresters do a great job of keeping timber harvest rolling. So good bird contacts there. And then I swung through Pennsylvania, grabbed some clean clothes, and then was up in southern New York and then northern New York over to the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, where I had never been.
Wow.
Really phenomenal landscape there. Same thing, though. Lots of bird finds on, lo and behold, international paper land.
Yeah.
It's being managed. International paper may have been Weyerhaeuser. Same
kind of thing. Yeah.
And then hunting also some public lands and seeing that there was not as much management as could be done. So we returned, and Todd Waldron and I are working on some meetings in Vermont to figure out how to up the pace of the game on public lands in Vermont, because it's so important for all of us to go out, and with hunter recruitment too, to be able to go out and have days where you're hunting prime habitat and having those bird contacts, whether for your young dog or for a young hunter or a friend that you're taking out for the first time, to say that, this is what it's all about.
Yeah,
Not
it's like taking them fishing but not catching a fish. It gets a little boring. It does for a new,
right.
a seasoned fisherman knows it's a waiting game, but in habitat, we can't wait the waiting game. So, we got to make sure that
chances with the young dogs and the new hunters if we're in really good habitat.
Mm-hmm. And then PA itself, how's PA doing? Sounds like you just skated through to get new clothes and you kept hunting. Are we avoiding the Pennsylvania subject? Because I don't know, because I haven't been back there in years to hunt.
Well, where I'm at in South Central Pennsylvania, we've got grouse here at higher elevations, and that's a bit more of a commitment for me. So what I've been doing since I got home, we had our upland bird hunt in north central Pennsylvania. Really good bird numbers there, strong on grouse and woodcock.
Nice.
And then since I've been back home here, I've been hopscotching around in some woodcock covers, and it's been just really phenomenal. So my son and I, and my 8-year-old, he tagged along with me last Friday, and we had a 25 woodcock day with 18 points, and we're able to take home a limit. So that's a really good day in Pennsylvania on the Timberdoodles.
I don't want to say that ain't no shit, but that ain't no shit, Ben.
Yeah, that's legit. And I've probably had half a dozen days like that, hopscotching around to woodcock covers here.
Wow, I think all the woodcock left Michigan and went to your place everywhere you went this year, because everyone I know, unless they got real lucky, I went on a banding project with a bander in the spring, and our drought was so bad here, we just, or friends of mine have just not figured out where did those woodcock go to. Obviously, they have to go to some ground that they can get their beak in, but they were not in there. Like when banders go back, they'll go back to the same place they banded the hen. Typically, they're going to find that hen or an offspring of that bird. And I had my movie camera with me, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be cool. I'm going to get some good." Nothing, So I don't know. Was PA in a bad drought this year at all, or no?
No, we were
okay.
We were right in the middle. But interestingly, I mentioned the numbers in northern Minnesota. Northern Minnesota was definitely in a drought.
That was in a drought. Yeah, I was there this year judging up at Pine Ridge. Yeah.
I said this to somebody the other day. I don't think we know a fraction of the whole deal about woodcock.
Yeah.
I think they're still just a fascinating bird, and there's a lot more to know.
Yeah.
And man, I just love it. And hopscotching around in these covers, and I was telling my son last week, I said, we're going to keep hunting till the close of the season. We're going to keep going in these places, and there's going to be a day we'll come into them and there won't be any birds left because they all flew south. And he was like, wow.
Yeah, they just left.
Wait a minute.
And typically they'd have been high. I mean, in a typical November, they'd have been gone anyway, right? But this weather's just been that's crazy that
we've had a pretty mild fall, but we've had 4 or 5 days here. It's getting into the upper 20s.
Yeah, same
night,
here.
So
Yep.
We'll see. We're going to try to hunt Thanksgiving morning before we eat. We'll see if some birds are still hanging on.
Oh, sounds fantastic, Ben. It's been. Did we miss anything? Other than the fact that we have to get more members, more habitat, more acres, more employees, more interest? What did we miss anything?
Yeah, we talked about fire. I mean, fire, old dogs, young dogs. Man, Ron, if there's something else, I don't know.
I don't know.
Certainly, we've eaten enough of your listeners' time up.
Well, I don't think they're bored of it. I will let you get on with it. You have to probably report to work or get your computer on. That's why we did this early in the morning, so
This is true.
we could squeeze it in. And are you off for the 4 days coming up from, or does Habitat not sleep and you're going back to work on Friday?
There'll be some things Friday. Hopefully, everybody else at RGS is off and things will be kind of quiet on the email. Maybe I can catch up a little bit, just do a little odds and ends. And then our deer season starts, the storied Pennsylvania deer season starts on Saturday. So, I'm going to try to completely unplug for a couple days and kill some whitetails.
Nice. Well, that's the one part. That's where you and I. That's where our paths. Like they run parallel, and then all of a sudden there's a Y in the road. Now I just cooked up an elk tenderloin that was just fantastic, but I did not shoot that elk.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing. I'm hoping one of my buddies has some extra venison, but I just can't sit. I don't know how a guy that loves the grouse hunt can sit. I don't know it. I don't get it, but I accept it. Just like everything else in this world, we got to accept. I accept your penchant for deer hunting.
Yeah, it's good therapy, too, to sit there and watch the woods go by, especially when I spent the last 6 weeks or so tramping around and covering miles. It'll be nice just to sit and chill for a bit.
All right. Well, Ben, you have a fantastic Thanksgiving and the family.
You too.
And we'll reconvene. Are you going to Pheasant Fest? Is RGS going to be at Pheasant Fest this year?
Yeah, we were just talking about it just yesterday, actually. Yep, looking forward to being in Omaha for Pheasant Fest.
All right. Well, then I guess that's the next time we'll probably chat. Or we could chat before that, but we'll chat in person, and we'll see what the Omaha brew pubs look like out there.
Well, between now and then, everybody take care. I hope you, your family, all your listeners have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk again soon.
All right. I will wrap this up with a pause and fill everybody in on Giving Tuesday. So to reiterate, this coming Tuesday, which will be the 30th of November, that's Giving Tuesday, go to RGS, and if you take up my suggestion, if you want one of your family members to become a member in lieu of buying you a silly tie or, a coupon for, Cabela's or something like that, get a family member to join up into RGS and make that their present to you. And that's going to be your present back to them, okay? And Giving Tuesday is a good day to do it. It's a big push. We really need more members. And I know you may not be a grouse hunter, but this isn't about grouse hunting. We could get into landscape. We could get into the forest, the grasslands. Things you could almost say things have been a mess in the past, but they're not really. And, we're not just putting a finger in the dike right now. The dike is patched. We're making a better dam, okay? That's not a great analogy for forests, is it? But anyway, Giving Tuesday's coming up. Check out Ruffed Grouse Society and do that. Give yourself the gift of a membership.
Ben Jones, RGS.